Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Friday. Hope you all are doing really well. Hope you all had a fantastic week. It is Friday, of course. The weekend is upon us, which is absolutely unbelievable news. We're going to sit down today and talk about Everton's season so far, the results, the performances, the new signings, the players that have impressed us so far this season, as well, of course, as Rafa Benitez's first season in charge of Everton Football Club. I thought it's the international break. Obviously, there's no game this weekend. There is international games just to, if you're bored and you're sitting at home and you want to throw something on the television to watch to entertain yourself. But there's certainly no Everton this weekend, and there's no Everton, in fact, until next Sunday when we play West Ham United at Goodison Park. So I thought, what could we sit down and talk about? What could we sit down and chat about? Obviously, we chatted about Andros Townsend yesterday. Really enjoyed that live stream, sitting down, talking about the impact Andros Townsend has had, or Andros Townsend's performances have had on Everton's season so far, just how important he has been, not just in regards to his performances on the pitch, his goals, his assists, but also his attitude, his desire, his determination, his mindset, his mentality, all of that good stuff. And we will be doing another one of those types of videos talking a bit about Abdoulaye Doucouré and Damari Gray next week as well. But I thought it's Friday night, everyone's chilled, everyone's had probably a difficult week at work, we're relaxing now ahead of the weekend. What can we do? Let's have a little chat about Everton's season thus far. We're currently into the second international break of the season. Of course, at this point last year, this was the first international break, obviously because last season's season started a little bit later due to COVID, so there was no September international break, so the October international break was the first one. But this, of course, this season starting in its normal usual time. We are currently in the second international break, and let's just talk a little bit about the international break, because I think it's really interesting. Usually I'm not a fan of international breaks whatsoever. I'm really not. Typically, we sit here and we say they're useless. Certainly these internationals where it's just, qualifying games or friendly games, they glorify friendlies, let's have it right. There's no need for these games to be played, especially not given the circumstances currently around the world. However, the last two international breaks, i.e. this one that we're currently, in, and obviously the one in September, I think have actually benefited Everton quite well, to be perfectly honest with you, because of the injuries that we've currently got to the squad, because of fitness issues we've currently got as well. I think allowing, the players to have a couple of weeks rest to sort of sort them, sort the bodies out and recuperate and rest and get ready for what is another really difficult game against West Ham United next weekend. I think it's come at absolutely the perfect time. Obviously, we know Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison and Seamus Coleman, three players that haven't been able to feature for Everton in a few weeks' time because of injuries. They, of course, haven't gone away with their international country, so they'll be able to stay at USM Finch Farm, hopefully rest up and recuperate, and hopefully be fit enough to return after the international break. We did have some bad news last night, which was that Luca Dean has unfortunately picked up an injury on international duty. It was a minor knock, and he has returned to USM Finch Farm to sit with the medical team and, of course, begin his rehabilitation on that injury. So hopefully that isn't anything too serious whatsoever either. But ultimately, as I said, again, typically not a big fan of these international breaks whatsoever. However, these last two have really have benefited Everton, I feel, in regards to being able to sort of have that little bit of rest, that weeks off, to allow the squad to sort of rest up and recuperate and go again at hopefully 100% next week against West Ham United. So Everton, of course, have started the season really well, in my opinion. There have been a couple of results and a couple of performances that you might look at and think, that that we should have been doing better there. Obviously, we'll talk about the Aston Villa game, we'll talk about the QPR game a little bit later on in the stream, but Everton are currently sitting 5th in the Premier League, joint 3rd, if you want to call it that, 5th on goal difference, which isn't any surprise, to be fair. We know Everton need to sort out our goal difference. Games played, 7, of course, Premier League games, with 2 Carabao Cup games, 4 wins in the Premier League, 2 draws and 1 loss, the same as Manchester United, I believe, the same as Manchester City, or in fact, I think we might be on a point more than Manchester City. We're certainly competing with those sides at the top of the table. And look, very, very early days. I understand that. Very, very early days. This point last season, we were top of the league. We were 4 out of 4 wins. We were absolutely, we were blowing teams away, and you were sort of sitting here thinking, this is great. This is amazing. We've got James Rodriguez. We've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring hat-tricks for fun. Richarlison scoring when he likes. And obviously, we all know how last season ended up. So, again, I'm not getting too ahead of myself. I'm not jumping the gun too much on the start so far. But it has been, for me, a really, really good start for a number of reasons. Not only because you look at some of the games that we've played and some of the fixtures that we've had, but you also have to take into consideration the injuries that we'll talk a little bit more about later on in the live stream. If you're watching, by the way, and you're enjoying, please do hit that like button. If you're watching live, don't forget to get in the live comments, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. And yeah, if you're watching the YouTube video, get your thoughts down below in the comment section, and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible as well. So let's have a quick run through of all of the fixtures so far. We're not going to talk about every game individually, but we will talk about some key points and references in all of those games that we have played so far. So obviously we opened the Premier League season at home to Southampton on the opening day and come away with a big 3-1 win in that game. Obviously going a goal behind to an Adam Armstrong strike in the first half, and Everton come out in the second half and just completely and utterly blew Southampton away. Richarlison getting the equaliser, of course, which was an absolutely fantastic goal at a really, really good time in the game. Abdoulaye Doucouré rifling one into the top corner in front of the Gladys seats. Again, another unbelievable strike. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin finishing that game off with a really, really nice header to give Everton their first win of the season on the opening day. 1 out of 1. Perfect. We then travel to Leeds, of course. Leeds' first time playing in front of a full home attendance since being back in the Premier League. First time in 20 odd years, 15 years, performing in front of a full Ellen Road in the Premier League. And it was always going to be a difficult game for Everton. We come away with a 2-2 draw in that one. Disappointing to not get the win. We had a number of chances towards the end of the game. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a couple right at the end of the game that you would have, and you will put money on him putting in the back of the net typically, but unfortunately it just wasn't his day. And to leave that, again, to leave Ellen Road and to leave Leeds on that day disappointed with a point, I think was a positive sign. As I said, it was always going to be a difficult game. Leeds' first game in front of fans at Ellen Road for the 15, 16, 17 years, whatever it's been since they were last in the Premier League. It was always going to be a tough test for Everton. And to come away with a point was not a bad result by any stretch of the imagination. And to come away sort of feeling like we should have won and feeling a bit like it was 2 points dropped shows that there was obviously very, very positive signs in that one. We then went to Huddersfield in the Carabao Cup second round away from home, of course, and we beat Huddersfield 2-1. Not the greatest performance, this was a little bit of a worrying one. Really, really late on, Andros Townsend struck to score the winning goal in that one. I believe it was Andros Townsend. And yeah, again, like I said, it was a bit of a difficult one to watch. We weren't that great. We struggled at times throughout the game. Huddersfield really battled, really fought, got forward. But at the end of the day, we all sat here, we done the review, we done the instant match reaction, and we all ultimately sat here and said, listen, mightn't have been a great performance, mightn't have been the best, game of football we'll watch all season, but it doesn't matter. We got the win. We're in the for the next round. That's all that matters. We then went to Brighton, of course, away from home, and put in arguably the best Everton performance for a long time. Certainly the best Everton performance of that season so far at that point. Really dominant display. Away to a Brighton side who had started the season really, really well. Still to this day, even 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks later, whatever it's been, Brighton still, at a side that are picking up points. I don't think they've lost a game since losing to Everton, and we're the only team that have managed to beat them so far this season. So again, really, really impressive performance. As I said, some of the football, some of the passages of play, some of the 1-2s, some of the movement was just unbelievable. Demarai Gray picking up his first goal. Sorry, not his first goal. He scored against Leeds, but picking up his first goal in an Everton win, which was absolutely fantastic. Really, really nice finish in that game. And it showed a lot of leadership within the team as well. A Brighton game, of course, the one where we won a penalty. Richarlison was absolutely desperate to take it, went over, picked the ball up, and Alan and Andros Townsend both had to go over and say to Richie, no, you're not the penalty taker. Dominic Calvert-Lewin takes the penalties, gave the ball to Dom, and Dom, of course, rifled it into the back of the net. So again, another really, really impressive performance. 3 games, 2 wins and a draw, and a win in the Carabao Cup. Really, really good start to the season for Rafa Benitez's Everton side. We then come up, of course, against Burnley. I think that was when the first international break, the September international break, was after that game against Brighton. So again, as I said, going into it undefeated, 2 wins and a draw in the Premier League, and a draw and a win in the Carabao Cup. Very nearly a perfect start. In fact, the manager, Rafa Benitez, was asked about the start to the season at that point, and he was asked whether it was a perfect start and how he feels, and he said, listen, it's not perfect because we haven't won every game. It's a very, very good start, but there's always room to improve. We then come up against Burnley Monday night at Goodison Park under the lights. First game at Goodison Park under the lights with a full packed out capacity crowd for 18 months, 2 years, something like that. Again, similar to the game against Southampton on the opening day of the season. This was the first home game we'd played since that game as well. I think it had been a 2-week wait to play in front of us at Goodison Park again. And again, very similar to Southampton, not the greatest start to the game whatsoever. Quite a poor first half of football. Going 1-0 down, of course, was never in the plans, and it was always evident that Everton needed to come out and attack in the second half. It was always evident that Everton needed to come out and take the game to Burnley, openly get forward, throw it on them, put a bit of pressure on them, and ultimately come away with a win. A defeat or a draw at home to Burnley was never going to be an acceptable result, and this was still within that period of time, and maybe some Evertonians are still in that period of time even now, but that was very much still in that period where there was a lot of Blues that still weren't fully convinced by Rafa Benitez. There was a lot of Blues that still were sort of, again, not so sure as to whether or not he was the right man for the job, not so sure as to whether or not he was up for the task. So going 1-0 behind to Burnley, again, was a real test for Rafa Benitez and for this Everton side to be able to pick themselves back up and get back in the game. And wow, did we get back in the game? Yes, we absolutely did. A 6-minute spell in the second half, which was just an absolutely unbelievable spell of football. Saw Everton score 4 goals in that space of time. Michael Keane getting the first one to equalise and make it 1-1. Really, really good header from an excellent Andros Townsend ball in. Andros Townsend then rifling one in from about 35 yards. A goal that has seen him win Premier League Goal of the Month for September. That was announced earlier today. So a massive, massive congratulations to Andros Townsend for that absolute world-class finish. Probably the best goal we'll see at Goodison Park this season. I'm going to say I'd struggle to think that we'll see a better goal from an Everton player this season. And in fact, I'd even go so far and say I'll struggle to think we'll see a better goal in the Premier League this season. But he won't get goal of the season because he plays for Everton. But an absolutely unbelievable finish to make it 2-1 to Everton. Demarai Gray then gets played in with an excellent through ball by Abdoulaye Doucouré. Just a couple of minutes after we've made the 2-1, Demarai Gray slots it past Nick Pope, makes it 3-1 to Everton. And the Park End, the Gladys seat, the Bullens, the family, everyone is going absolutely bonkers. A couple of minutes after that, Abdoulaye Doucouré gets thread in, makes it 4-1, and we're thinking, what's going on here? 5 minutes ago, we were 1-0 down. 5 minutes later, we're now 4-1 up. Obviously, the Abdoulaye Doucouré goal, got disallowed for offside, and he was offside. Only just offside, but he was offside nevertheless. And then obviously Burnley sort of calmed themselves down, sorted themselves out, and managed to hold out the game. And that was a 3-1 win for Everton. Again, another big win. However, another show of signs that things can get better. Really, really good second half. Really, really good period of football. But in that first half, we still needed to improve. We still could have been better. We could have done a lot of things better. Everton then, of course, as I said, 3 wins in the Premier League, a draw and a win in the Carabao Cup. Travelled to an Aston Villa side who had struggled so far in the season, hadn't been able to pick up some of the results that they would have liked. Performances weren't that great. They'd obviously spent a lot of money in the summer having to replace Jack Grealish. Everton turn up at Villa Park, hoping to come away with a result, a win, a draw, anything to come away from that game, which was always going to be a tricky game. And obviously we know how that one went. Aston Villa 3, Everton 0 away from home. Again, very similar to the game against Burnley, just 6 days beforehand, when we had a period of 6 minutes where we were absolutely on fire and Burnley couldn't keep up with us. Aston Villa also had a period of, I think it was 9 minutes in that game, where they just absolutely ran rings around us and we simply couldn't deal with it at all. 3 goals in the space of 9 minutes for Aston Villa. Obviously, this was the game that Everton were without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison and Seamus Coleman for. Dominic Calvert-Lewin Richarlison and Seamus Coleman both missed the game against Burnley through an injury. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin had broken his toe and had a thigh strain, and Seamus Coleman had picked up a knock as well. But in that game against Burnley, obviously Richarlison picked up a knock after an absolutely shocking challenge by James Tarkowski, which I still don't quite understand why it wasn't a yellow card or a foul of some sort. It was absolutely disgraceful. So we were without Richarlison in that game. Solomon Rondon had come into the football club, come in very clearly to be a backup to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Richarlison, hadn't played any consistent football in 4 months and was thrown straight in at the deep end starting up top for Everton. We knew he wasn't fit. We knew he wasn't going to be quite up for it, and we could see in that game against Aston Villa, as much for him as he put his weight about and he battled and he worked hard, he just wasn't at that level we needed him to be. And as I said, Aston Villa had a period of 9-10 minutes where they just absolutely ran rings around us. Obviously, Luca Dean didn't have his greatest of performances in that game. Couple of mistakes. First one, obviously, allowing, I think it was Matty Cash, far too much time and space on that right-hand side to just beat him. And the second one, of course, was an own goal by Luca Dean. Ben Godfrey at fault for the third, simply allowing Leon Bailey far too much time, far too much space to run down that left-hand side and rifle the ball into the back of the net. So again, Everton suffered their first defeat of the season. I actually didn't think it was too bad of a performance in the first half, to be honest with you. I don't. I think we managed the game really, really well, considering the injuries that we had, considering we were struggling to even field a squad for that game. I actually think we managed it really, really well in the first half. Okay, the second half, they ran away with it a little bit. And like I said, after that 10-minute spell, again, the game quieted down, but we just couldn't get back into it. It was always going to be game, set and match at that point. A lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration from Evertonians, but also a lot of understanding that, we were always going to lose a game of football, and it was a mad period of 9 minutes. It wasn't like we were completely walked over for the entire 90 minutes. It was just that period which we couldn't put up with. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. We will get in the live comments in just a moment. If you could subscribe, that would be absolutely brilliant. We're flying towards 5k now, so if you could subscribe, that would be great. Everton then travelled to QPR in the Carabao Cup third round, hoping to revenge that defeat to Aston Villa a few days beforehand. Obviously, the game against QPR being on the Tuesday. The game ended 2-2. Everton going behind twice in that game and bringing it back. However, of course, it went to penalties, and we all know what happened. Everton being defeated 8-7 on penalties by QPR. Tom Davies missing the deciding penalty for Everton after Ben Godfrey had actually missed his, but it was retaken because the goalkeeper was off his line. And it was the first sort of, I suppose, the first point in the season where obviously, again, the Aston Villa defeat was not nice, and wasn't easy to take, and was disappointing and was frustrating. Of course it was, but I feel like we could get over the Aston Villa defeat a lot more easy because we understood the injuries that we had. We understood that they were again a side that had struggled themselves this season, so they were always looking for their first win, and it was a defeat. Look, we lost the game away from home in the Premier League. A lot of teams will lose games away from home in the Premier League this season. To sides like Aston Villa, who are very good teams that will be challenging for a place in a European competition come the end of the season. So I feel like the Villa game was one that we could sort of forget about, put to one side and move on from. The game against QPR obviously was a lot more disappointing for obvious reasons. One being that it was an opportunity to obviously to go and not just I suppose put a good cut run together, and I hate that statement. I hate that saying we've had a good cut run. But obviously it was a cup competition that we would have been seeking to win at the start of the season. That obviously we were knocked out of. And as I said, after the game against QPR, Everton are a club that only have 3 trophies available to them at the start of the season to win, and one of them is the Premier League title, which isn't going to happen for a long time. So if you knock that one on the head, you've got the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. Now obviously I understand that the Carabao Cup has been won by Manchester City for the last 18 years on the bounce or something ridiculous like that, so that isn't even as easy as to win as it once was. However, I still feel, even though Manchester City have shown a clear dominance in this competition for the last 4 or 5 years, I still think that it's an easier competition to win than the FA Cup is. And when you go out in the third round to a QPR side that you realistically should have been beaten comfortably, I know we didn't have a full strength team, I know we had injuries, I know we had fitness issues, I know we had worries within the squad, but that team that played against QPR still, to this day, I stick to my opinion, still should have been more than good enough to win, and to win comfortably. We had the likes of Tom Davies on the pitch, Andre Gomez, who was, again, Andre Gomez had started the season really, really brightly. Every time he'd come on as a sub, obviously he hadn't started the game at this point, other than the game against Huddersfield, I believe. But again, even though he was only coming on as a substitute for maybe the last 15, 20 minutes, half an hour of games, he was having an impact. He was getting involved. He was holding the ball up well. He was getting forward. He was playing some nice passes. So we got this opportunity to start against QPR. And I wanted him to snatch it with both hands. I wanted Rafa Benitez to be sat on that coach on the way home, or sat on that plane on the way home from London thinking, do you know what? Andre Gomez was absolutely unbelievable today. I've got a decision to make ahead of the next Premier League game, which obviously was the game against Norwich. I've got a decision to make as to whether or not he starts that game. But he didn't. He didn't give Rafa Benitez any decision to make because he was woeful, as was Tom Davies, as was, Alex Iwobi, who didn't really perform in that game either. So, again, that was the sort of lowest point we've had so far this season. Not only because, again, of the performances of those fringe players that you would have liked and maybe expected a lot more from, but also because we'd been knocked out of a cup competition that, you want them to do well. And as I say it every year, every time we do a season preview, I say every single time, Everton simply aren't a club that are in a position to throw cup competitions away. We're not a club that are in a position to go, yeah, we won't really focus on the Carabao Cup this season because, we don't want to win it, or we won't really focus on the FA Cup this season because we don't want to win it. We have to simply want to win every single cup competition we're a part of, because we haven't won a trophy for so long. We're the fourth biggest club in England and we haven't won a trophy for 25, 26 years, something like that. It's simply not good enough. And that frustration and that emotion and that sort of feeling comes out every time we lose a cup game, and more so every time we lose a cup game to a side that we should be comfortably beaten. So we'd had a bit of a bad week there, a defeat to Aston Villa away in the league, 3-0. Again, wasn't necessarily a 3-0 game in regards to the performance, but we lost 3-0, and then obviously a defeat to QPR in the Carabao Cup as well, which was massively disappointing. We then played a Norwich side who was struggling to pick up their first win of the season. 5 defeats in the Premier League at the time, hadn't won a Premier League game in 15, 16 attempts. So again, a Norwich side that were coming to Goodison Park searching for their not only first win of the season, but first win in a long time, and obviously searching for their first points of the season. Everton coming into it off the back of a bad week in regards to results and performances, and I suppose we were all just hoping at that point, leading up to the Norwich game, before the game, I suppose we were all just hoping that Everton wouldn't be that team that gave Norwich their first win in, however many months and weeks that it's been, and we were not that team. A 2-0 victory for Everton, goals from Andros Townsend, of course, a penalty, one of the most blatant penalties you'll see all season, and then Abdoulaye Doucouré with a really nice finish to make it 2. And then more recently, of course, to bring us up to date, last week, Everton faced Manchester United at Old Trafford and picked up a really, really impressive 1-1 draw. Again, going into the game against Aston Villa, QPR, Norwich, United, all without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Seamus Coleman, James Rodriguez has, of course, left the football club, and we picked up a really, really impressive 1-1 draw against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Again, similar to the Leeds game, a game that a lot of Evertonians, including myself, will feel we should have won, will feel that we were unlucky to not come away with all 3 points, because we were unlucky to not come away with all 3 points. There's no doubt in it whatsoever. So there are results and performances so far. As I said, currently sitting 5th in the Premier League on goal difference. Joint 3rd, of course, 7 games played, 4 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat. Really, really good start for me. If you take away the QPR game, I think it's been a very good start. The Villa game is an easy one to forget and move on from. The QPR game's a bit difficult, a bit more different to get that. But a very, very, very good start for Rafa Benitez. I want to talk about some of the injuries that we've had and the impact that they've had on the season. I want to talk about some of the star players that I feel have really, really impressed so far as well. And I want to talk about the manager, Rafa Benitez. But we'll get into all of that after we get into some of the live comments. Lenny says, all right, Cam. All right, Lenny, hope you're doing well, my mate. Eugene says, Andros Townsend wins Premier League goal of the month. He did. Massive congratulations to Andros Townsend. Up the F and Sophie, he says, Nate is right. Harold says, the DML St. Maximum is over. Newcastle is now the richest club in the world. Listen, I've seen all the Newcastle stuff, and it's a bit mad. Listen, again, I'm not a Newcastle fan, so I don't have a massive opinion on it, but it is a bit mad. But what I would say to any Newcastle fan that might be watching, I don't know why you'd be watching, but if you are watching, what I would say is that having that much money is great, and it gives you a lot more opportunities than you had beforehand, and it opens a lot more doors than you had open beforehand. But it doesn't, by any stretch of the imagination, guarantee any form of success whatsoever. For any Newcastle fan out there, or any football fan that thinks Newcastle are all of a sudden going to become the next Man City and are going to go and buy Neymar and Mbappe and Haaland in the summer, nonsense, mate. Don't make yourself look like an idiot by talking like that or by thinking like that. It's never going to happen. A, because of financial fair play regulations. The Premier League do not want another Manchester City. They do not want another side that isn't in the traditional top 6 or top 5, top 4, whatever, to break into that and to dominate it. They don't want that. They hated Manchester City doing it, and they still hate Manchester City to this day for doing that. They don't want the limelight taken away from Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal. They don't want that whatsoever. So if Newcastle think that all of a sudden, because they've got all this money, the Premier League are going to go, yes, you can spend this, that and the other, we want you to win the league. They don't want that whatsoever. It's all about spending the money in the right areas, on the right players, at the right times. We know ourselves as Evertonians. Take it from Evertonians who know this firsthand out of experience. Money does not guarantee success in this sport, in this league. It really, really doesn't. Nate says we don't need to take maximum moves to be consistent. Harold says capturing Luis Diaz is now important. It'd be a great signing, but again, has had a good start to the season, so it'll be really difficult for Everton to pull that one off this summer or in January. Any injury news, says Aaron? Well, we know, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that Luca Dean has withdrawn from the French squad due to picking up a knock during French international duty. He will return to USM Finch Farm to be assessed by Everton's medical side and obviously to complete his recovery and, obviously rehabilitation. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. We don't know the extreme details on it yet, so I can't sit here and comment on it. I can't sit here and say how long he's going to be out for or how bad it is, etc. But hopefully it isn't too serious whatsoever, because we've got nobody to come in and replace him. And, Luca Dean, I think, barring that game against Aston Villa, which we've just spoken about, I think Luca Dean has had a good start to the season. And again, okay, maybe for his expectation, he could do better in terms of his assists and his final product. That's fine, but obviously we hope that it's nothing too serious, and we hope that he'll be available for the game against West Ham next Sunday. Kieran says, hello Cam, hope you're well. I'm not too bad, mate. Hope you're doing well yourself. Everton Blues says Haaland linked with a move back to Everton. That's mad. Harold says, Nate and Jack, if he's so inconsistent, that is why he's only the big clubs in England are after him, tell me. There you go. Carl says, a one loss in 7 is perfect, with the loss showing something different to me under Carlo. We wouldn't have tried to come back under Silva, same under Rafa. Under Rafa, we showed fight, but we didn't have the quality. Fair enough. Eugene says Pickford to be rested for the England game. I haven't read that. Nate says, Harold, tell me how many goals he scored since being at Newcastle. They won 50 million. And Everton Blue says, Cam, you seen it? Rafa linked with a move back to Newcastle. They won him in January. I've seen that rumour. And for me, it is the easiest bit of journalism that any journalist could make up at this current time. Rafa Benitez, a manager doing well at his current football club, only just started to really sort of settle in at the club in regards to fans' opinions, obviously, because of the controversy surrounding the appointments in the first place. Previous Newcastle manager had a great relationship with Newcastle fans, great relationship with the club. It's the ease, and Newcastle now are absolutely filthy rich and have got a ridiculous amount of money. It is it is the simplest transfer rumour you could make up to get easy clicks, because they knew that Everton fans were going to click it, Newcastle fans were going to click it, because it meant that Steve Bruce would be sacked, and that's all they want at the moment. It is just, I don't believe a word of it. And I'll go out on a limb here, and I said this about Carlo, so again, I haven't learned my lesson, but I'll go out on a limb here and say Rafa Benitez wouldn't leave Everton for Newcastle at this current point. I don't think he would, even though he had a good relationship with the fans and this, that and the other. I don't think Rafa Benitez leaves Newcastle for Everton. Leaves Everton for Newcastle at this current point. I just don't think he does. Anyway, we'll get back in the live comments very, very shortly. If you're watching live and you're enjoying, please hit that big thumbs up button. It does only take a second. 40 people currently watching. If you could get the likes up, that would be absolutely perfect. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. It would mean a great, great deal to me. And if you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments. Let's get involved. Keane says, I'm doing well. Can't make the international break, but the women's team are playing on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that. Is right, mate. You know what? I usually do hate the international breaks, but I've enjoyed these last couple because I think they've both been very beneficial to Everton in regards to getting players back, getting players fit, recovering from injuries, this, that and the other. I think both international breaks have come at the perfect time where Everton, and most importantly the players, have needed the rest. And that's why I think they've done us well so far. I don't like them in regards to the fact there's very little footy on other than international games, which is obviously most of them are a load of crap. But I think it's done well for Everton so far. Anyway, as I said, we've spoken about the results, we've spoken about the performances. Southampton, awful first half, great second half. Burnley, awful first half, great second half. Brighton, fantastic for the 90 minutes. Man United, unbelievable for the 90 minutes. And that's the most important game, because as they say in boxing, you're only as good as your last fight. Same with football, you're only as good as your last performance. That's the most important game. That was the last performance. Villa, disappointing. But then you look, obviously, after Villa, you've got, we played the game against Aston Villa without... we played the game against Burnley without Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Seamus Coleman. We played the game against Aston Villa without Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Seamus Coleman. Same against QPR, same against Norwich, same against Manchester United. So let's talk a little bit about injuries, because I think they've had a massive impact on Everton's season thus far. I said it on Monday in the game review, and I'll say it again now. I feel like that if Everton would have had Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison available for the game against Manchester United, we would have won the game comfortably. And I'll say that with no... That isn't rose-tinted glasses, that isn't any bias, that isn't any sort of dig at Manchester United for the sake of it. That is my honest opinion. I believe that Everton would have won that game comfortably had we had Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison and Seamus Coleman available as well. We've played the last couple of games with Solomon Rondon up front, and no disrespect to Solomon Rondon, I think he works hard, I think he battles, I think he puts himself about, but he's very clearly not at that level of fitness as to we need him to be. And he's also, technically, he's not as good as Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's not as good as Richarlison. He might be able to score goals, might be able to throw himself about, but he's not at the level that those two players are. So when you're playing Manchester United away from home, and you're performing as we did, and you're looking at it at the end of the game thinking we should have come away with all 3 points there, and you're doing that without your top two strikers. The media can talk all he wants about Cristiano Ronaldo, and what would have happened if Cristiano Ronaldo started? Man United, I've seen so many articles, United would have won that game comfortably with Cristiano Ronaldo. Nonsense, mate. If we had Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, Cristiano Ronaldo would have been 3-0 down before he'd have even come onto the pitch, mate, before he'd have even pulled his socks up and been able to talk about his anti-shoe. We'd have won it comfortably with our full-strength side. And injuries, again, have had an impact on Everton's season so far. As I said, our two strikers out. Our captain Seamus Coleman out injured. Our number one goalkeeper Jordan Pickford had a period of a couple of games where he was injured, he couldn't play. Obviously we've just heard, Paul says, what do we know about Dean's injury? Very, very little. We know he's picked up an injury on international duty and he's returned to USM Finch Farm for his rehabilitation. So again, the mere fact that we've had these injuries, the mere fact that we've had to play through them and cope without our two strikers, our goal scorers. There was a point last season where if you were to say to anyone watching live, and include myself, there's a point last season where if you was to say, listen, Cam, Everton are going to be without Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison for a game at Old Trafford against Manchester United, how do you feel you'll get on? I'd have said, not very well, mate, to be honest with you. Because we didn't have any other goal scorers. It was Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it was Richarlison, and that was it. Whereas now, we've got Abdoulaye Doucouré, who's scoring goals, who's getting involved. We've got Andros Townsend, who's had an unbelievable start to the season, as we spoke about yesterday. Damari Gray, who's been absolutely brilliant. You've got other players that are chipping in with goals, that are getting involved at that top end of the pitch, and that's so important. I can't stress how important it is for us to take that pressure off Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. Yes, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are our number two, one sort of partnership in regards to to forward players and to strikers, but we relied so heavily on those two prior to this season, and probably still do to an extent, rely so heavily on them, because we're all sitting here saying we can't wait for them to be back. But the introduction of Damari Gray, the introduction of Andros Townsend has meant that reliability on Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison is just toned down a little bit. It's just toned down a little bit, because we've now got other players within the squad that are scoring goals. Doesn't mean that we haven't been affected by injuries. As I said, we're 7 games into a Premier League season and we've had our captain, our number one goalkeeper, and our 2 strikers out injured for not just a game, not just they're not fit enough to start, like Man United's problem last week. Our players are out for 3-4 weeks. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, broken toe, thigh injury. Richarlison, knee injury that was sustained in a challenge that was not even given a foul. Jordan Pickford had a shoulder problem. Seamus Coleman out as well and has been out for 2-3 weeks. So, again, when you look at Everton's start of the season, 4 wins, 2 draws and a loss, and you then, take into consideration the various different variables of that form and those performances, and you think, well, we've done, we've managed to accumulate that amount of points without our 2, forward players for a large period of the season, a large proportion of the season so far, without our number one captain and our only, natural right back in the squad. I know we've got John Joe Kenny, but he's not playing. So we've got, not only have we got no strikers, we've got an unfit Ben Godfrey who's getting fitter, but at the time that he had to get called, be called upon to play right back, he was an unfit centre back playing right back. So it's all of these different variables that you look at and you go, considering the size of our squad, considering our, the extent of our transfer window this season, obviously spending £1.5 million in the transfer window, not a lot of money spent whatsoever. Yes, the players that we've brought in have had a brilliant start to the season, certainly the 2 outfield players in regards to Andros Townsend and Damari Gray. But it shows that, again, just how well Everton are doing so far, in my opinion. It really, really does. Star players, of course. Let's have a little talk about the players who are performing at that level that you just think, oh my God. Damari Gray, £1.5 million. I remember we signed him and there was a lot of sort of, I think, to be honest, there was a lot of optimistic blues about this signing. We knew £1.5 million, very little money. A lad that, of course, when he was growing up at Birmingham, was an absolutely unbelievable talent. Got his move to Leicester, never quite worked for him there. Then obviously went over to Bayer Leverkusen, never quite worked for him there. But coming to Everton, I feel like the day he signed, there was a lot of optimism surrounding him. There was a lot of Evertonians that were very much, including myself, were very much of the thought of, well, do you know what, for £1.5 million, let's see how he does. Because if he doesn't do well, if he doesn't settle, if he can't perform, then he'll go, and we've not spent much money on him. If he can, and we know, we knew at the time his potential, we knew at the time his ability, his quality, then this lad could be an absolutely fantastic signing for us. And he's turned out to be that so far, hasn't he? Unbelievable performances, goals scored, scoring goals, beating his man, getting assists, being involved in goals. But also, as I said, typically, even when he's not scoring or not getting an assist, he's still the best player on the pitch. He's still the most dangerous player on the pitch. Look at the goal against Manchester United. Damari Gray didn't get the assist for that because Abdoulaye Doucouré got the assist. But look at how much work Damari Gray did. Absolutely bouncing Fred, sending him back to the shop for a Lucasade. Taking it past 2 or 3 United players and playing an excellent ball to Abdoulaye Doucouré. Now, statistically, that won't show anything for Damari Gray because he didn't get the assist, he didn't score. But look at how important his role was in that goal. And for the entire game against Manchester United, he worked, he battled, he fought, he had a shot that if he'd been able to stay on his feet, I feel like he'd have done a lot better. He didn't, he fell over, of course, which was unlucky. Goal against Leeds, goal against Brighton, goal against Burnley. He's been absolutely fantastic so far this season. Absolute revelation. And for the money that we spent on him, I feel like, as I said last week, I feel like phoning up Bayer Leverkusen and just saying sorry. Just sitting there and saying sorry repeatedly on the phone to him because he's an absolutely wonderful signing. Andros Townsend, as I said, we spoke about him yesterday. He's been absolutely brilliant so far this season. This is a player who come in, and unlike Damari Gray, where there was a lot of optimism and a lot of sort of, positive feeling around him, the same can't be said for Andros Townsend. There was a lot of Evertonians that were very much of the opinion as to why have we brought in a 30-year-old fella from Crystal Palace who isn't even seen as good enough to get a new contract at Crystal Palace. What's the reason? What's the point? Yes, he's a very accurate crosser of the ball. Yes, he's very fit, but he only managed 1 goal last season. He's never really had a consistent season in regards to goal scoring. What are the reasons for bringing him into the football club? As I said yesterday, look at him so far. Unbelievable stats. 7 games played, 3 goals, 2 assists, 2 goals in the Carabao Cup with 1 assist. So that's out of 9 games, 8 goal involvements. And that's just direct goal involvements, as I said. That doesn't count for his involvement in other goals. That's just goals and assists. 8 goal involvements in 9 games. Unbelievable start to the season. As we mentioned yesterday, not just his performances, not just his statistics, his desire, his attitude, coming into Everton and talking about Everton as, you know, one of the biggest clubs in world football, how it's an honour for him to be here, how we can't wait to wear the historic shirt of this football club. His desire insane, and talking about how the manager comes up to him, and even when he plays well, even when he's scoring worldies against Burnley, Rafa Benitez is still there saying, but you need to do this, you need to do that, and he's happy to take that criticism. He doesn't spit his dummy and go, hang on, I've just scored a worldie there, so I'm not listening to you. He's sitting there going, yeah, how can I improve? Tell me how I can improve. Tell me how I can do better, how I can do more. The desire, the attitude. I also think we've seen a very different side to Abdoulaye Doucouré this season, and we're going to talk about Abdoulaye Doucouré on a separate live stream because I really do think he deserves a separate team talking about him. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that big thumbs up button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Abdoulaye Doucouré, what a start he's had to the season. Rafa Benitez was speaking about him in one of his press conferences last week, was asked a direct question, what's the difference between Abdoulaye Doucouré now and the Abdoulaye Doucouré we saw last season? And he said, well, simple. The player come up to me and expressed that he wanted to do more work going forward. He wanted to get in the opposition box more. He wanted to be more creative. He wanted to show his ability as a forward thinking player more often. And the manager, Rafa Benitez, said to him, go and do it. And look at how impressive Abdoulaye Doucouré's been this season. Again, another assist against Manchester United. Wonderful goal against Norwich the week before. Unbelievable strike against Southampton on the opening game of the season. Absolutely fantastic player. We're not only now seeing the absolute dominance of Abdoulaye Doucouré in regards to an athletic midfielder who gets about the pitch and wins the ball and battles and defensively is you know, covering his defensive teammates and working his arse off, but we're also now seeing him as a box-to-box midfielder, getting forward, creating chances, scoring goals. We're seeing both sides of Abdoulaye Doucouré now, almost very, you know, similar to the Abdoulaye Doucouré that we saw at Watford, that we all hoped we were getting at Everton. Last season he was very, very good, very good, but I can't help but feel like the manager last season was maybe asking him to do, you know, to focus a lot more on his defensive duties than he maybe was on his attacking duties, whereas this season he's being allowed to express himself in both ways. And as I said, he's been absolutely fantastic for doing that. Yerry Mina, what a player. What a player Yerry Mina is defensively. Just absolutely outstanding this season. Absolutely outstanding. Every game he's played in, he's battled, he's worked hard, he's managed to keep, you know, whichever centre forward he's coming up against, he's managed to keep them at bay. He's managed to stop them from running riot round, you know, running the game. Done it with Patrick Bamford, wound Patrick Bamford up brilliantly. Done it last weekend with Ederson Cavani, Bruno Fernandes. You know, he wasn't worried, oh, it's Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo. No, get in your face, he'll get down your ear, he'll battle with you, he'll fight with you, he'll have a go with you, he'll make a challenge, but also defensively, he's an absolute ball magnet. He's first to everything. Every time the ball's in the air, he's there. Every time the ball's on the floor, he's there. Excellent start to the season. Alan in midfield next to Abdoulaye Doucouré. What a start to the season Alan has had. The battling, the work rate, you know, being able to keep up with players like Max Adams for pace. We would never have thought somebody like Alan could do that, but it's that desire, it's that work rate. It seems like the entire team, from Doucouré to Alan to Townsend to Gray to Yerry Mina to Ben Godfrey to Jordan Pickford to Calvert-Lewin to Richarlison, they're all reacting really, really positively to Rafa Benitez's management. They're all reacting really positively to that mentality of you've got to give 110% for this shit. Sometimes you'll lose games of football, and that's alright, because sometimes you'll lose games of football against sides that are just better than you, that have just got more quality on you, that just offer more than you. But there's no excuse for not giving 110%. You've got to give 110% every time you're on that pitch, and that's what we're seeing now from this entire Everton squad. And it's so good to see. We're going to talk about Rafa Benitez in a moment before we finish up. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. It only takes a second if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Let's get back in the live comments before we finish up then. Where are we? Rafa not going to the tune, says Nate. I agree, he's good. Harold, he won't be top of my list. Where'd you read that, Everton Blues? He is a millionaire, says Nate. Paul says, I'd be surprised if Rafa did go. Media stringing it up again. Yeah, it's a nonsense transfer rumour, which is ridiculously easy to make up. I don't think Rafa Benitez is going anywhere. Harold says, that's okay, but he's on the top of mine. Every time you see brilliance beyond me. That's fine. Doesn't mean it's Sue, says Nate. Now Usmanov needs to come out from the smoke and step up his game, says Harold. I agree, Harold, says Nate. Paul says, international break sucks. Roll on West Ham. What do we know about Luca Dean's injury? Not much, to be honest. Peter says it's a hamstring injury. I can't remember whatever. Let me go and have a look at the official statements from Everton and see if they've listed anything specific regarding it. Says minor injury. Hamstring injury, yeah, due to a minor hamstring injury. So again, that word minor is I suppose a positive, because hopefully that means it's not too serious, and hopefully it means that with a week's rest he'll be able to go again against West Ham next weekend. But that's all we know at the moment, a minor hamstring injury. Stevie Lamb, what's happening, Stevie? He says, alright, young Cam, hit the like button, Blues. Just tucking into duck and egg fried rice magic. Unbelievable, Steve. You know what? You've made me hungry, and I'm going to have to go and get a scan after this. Nate says, don't think that's confirmed. Peter, Everton Blues says we need a song for DCL and Richarlison together. Here you go. Harold says, the problem with Everton is they do not know when to recognise and sell players before they go to stale, and nobody wants them. Typical example, Luca Dean. I don't think we should be selling Luca Dean, but fair enough. Everton Blues says, keep it up, Cam. Thank you very much, my mate. Nate says, Harold Dean is France's #1 left back. How was he past his best? When was the last time did you see him have a proper game, says Harold. And Paul says, I want us to buy the players that work hard for the manager and the team. I'd take that over any so-called world-class player. Gray and Townsend have been quality so far, working hard along with the rest. Spot on, mate. Yeah, absolutely spot on. And yeah, I completely agree. I said it yesterday. You can be world class, the best footballer in the world, but if you're not going to work hard, if you're not going to battle, if you're not going to fight for the shirt, then it's just not going to work under this manager, and I don't particularly think that's a bad thing. Let's talk about the manager then before we finish up. Rafa Benitez, obviously his first season in charge at Everton Football Club, coming in the summer. We knew obviously he was, the financial problems, Everton's financial fair play issues were going to hinder Everton this summer. £1.5 million spent, our lowest spending summer for quite some time. If somebody can tell me, when the last time we spent less than that in the summer transfer window was, then, big ups to yourself, because I can't remember when it was, that's for sure. Damari Gray coming in, 1.5 million, and just Townsend coming in for a free. Obviously, we bought Solomon Rondon in free, Asmir Begovic and Andy Lonergan coming in as well. Not the most aspiring summer, not the most exciting summer, but a really, really important summer in regards to the players that we're bringing in, players that we brought in, the mentality of those players, the desire, the work rate, I suppose their personalities, and we're seeing that in Damari Gray and just Townsend. Even Solomon Rondon, who's not the greatest footballer, but he hasn't moaned once about, I haven't played footy in 4 months, I can't start again today. He's just turned up and done his job. But let's talk about the manager. As I said, coming in the summer, hands tied behind his back a little bit with FFP, not being able to go out and spend, the money that he maybe would have wanted to spend on the players that he maybe would have wanted to bring in. Again, as I said, already coming in with a sort of, I don't want to say a rod in his back, but certainly with the need to, I suppose, again, it's difficult because I don't want to say, impressed for Evertonians, because I suppose that's not down to Rafa Benitez, but he was coming in with a lot of Evertonians not very happy with the appointment, not very motivated by it, and also not happy by the fact that he's an ex-Liverpool manager who said a few things in the past that probably weren't great, or definitely weren't great. And I honestly think, considering the fact that we're only 7 games into the season and on the second international break, I think Rafa Benitez has managed to win over a lot of those Evertonians that weren't very happy with his appointment in the first place. I think via the performances, via the results, and overall just via the determination. You know, I had a really, really interesting thought when watching the Manchester United game last weekend, and it was a bit of a strange thought. It was one that was, not that I'd, obviously you ever want Everton to lose or, anything like that, but I was sort of had this feeling about 60, 70 minutes in. I think it was just after we equalised where I thought, if we do go on and lose this game, I will still be immensely proud of this Everton team. And that was the feeling, the gut feeling I had 70 minutes into that game against Manchester United. I thought, even if we still lose this game, if they go and score a last-minute winner like they've done in every Premier League game this season, if they go and score in the 89th minute to win it, I'll still, turn the game off or leave the pub or whatever, still immensely proud of this side because of the work rate, the effort, the fight, the passion, the desire, the determination that they'd shown on that day. And that's been the case for the game against Burnley in the second half, certainly. Southampton the same, Leeds, Brighton. So you can see the impact that Rafa Benitez is having on this Everton team so far as a manager, the things that he demands from the players. He's a never satisfied manager. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about Rafa Benitez's never satisfied mentality. He always wants more. Andros Townsend scored a worldie against Burnley. Rafa Benitez had a conversation with him after the game and we're still demanding more, we're still asking for more. And that is exactly the type of manager that Everton need. Exactly the type of manager that Everton need. Everton need a manager who is going to demand 110% from his squad and from his players. Nil Satis, Nizzy Optimum. Let's not forget that. Nothing but the best is good enough. Everton have needed a manager for a long, long time that is going to demand the best from every single member of the club, whether you're a player, whether you're a staff member, whether you're a physio, whether you're the chef in the training ground. He wants the best from everybody. And that is a massive, massive benefactor to Everton. And certainly Everton's season so far. And we're seeing it. The performances on the pitch, the performances in the work rate in training, the intensity. Every time you hear a player talk about him, they talk about how, he always wants more. He's always seeing how to improve, seeing how we can impress, how we can score more, how we can concede less, how we can control games a lot better. We haven't had a perfect start to the season by any stretch of the imagination. The first half against Burnley and Southampton were woeful. Second half were great, yeah, but the first half were woeful. The game against Villa, that period of 10 minutes was poor. QPR, really, really poor performance. But it's a work in progress, and you can see that there's improvements being made. And I honestly think at this moment in time, and this might be something that a lot of Evertonians like to hear, but I honestly think at this moment in time, Rafa Benitez is the best manager for the job. The best manager for the job at the moment. It reminds me a lot of the David Moyes days, i.e. not spending a lot of money in the transfer window, not bringing in players that the media or opposition fans are sitting there going, oh my God, Everton have brought in this player, they're going to challenge for the Champions League this season. Everton have brought in that player, they're going to be amazing. No. I remember some opposition fans saying, Damari Gray, what are they signing in for? Andros Townsend couldn't even get a new contract at Palace. Now those same people are sitting there going, Damari Gray looks a player, only $1.5 million, that's a steal. Andros Townsend looks rejuvenated, what's going on? It's working with a manager that believes in him, that's trusting him, that's giving him an opportunity. Same with Damari Gray, and now we're being paid back by the performances. I just think it's been an absolutely excellent start to the season. Let us know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Of course, you agree with me. You might think I'm chatting absolute nonsense. If you do, get it in the comments. If you're watching a YouTube video, I really, really want to hear your thoughts on this one. If you're watching a live, get your thoughts in the comments before we finish up, and we'll get involved with them. If you've enjoyed this stream, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. 55 people watching, 27 likes. If you could get it to 35 before we finish, that'll be absolutely perfect. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That does only take a second. Where are we? Nate says, I think he's pretty consistent this season, maybe not at his best, but still top left back. The core is like a new signing, superb, says Paul. I would agree, mate, absolutely. We need to tie Yeri down to another context, says Nate. You're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. Harold says, I always called the Corey the guy with the most beautiful composure on the ball with Everton. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there, Harold, to be honest. Ariel says, up the effing toffees. He just says, up the toffees, but I'm going to throw the effing in there. Up the effing toffees. Cheers from New York City. The pub was bouncing at 7:30am in the last match. Thank you very much, Ariel. Hope doing well over in New York. Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable scenes. And massive shout out to those Blues that are in America or Australia or South Africa or wherever you are in the world where you've got to get up at ridiculous times in the morning to watch the game, but you still do get up and watch it. Massive shout out to you guys. Harold says, Yerry Mina must grow a grey beard with Everton. Grey is a jet plane. Dan says, if Benitez continues to do well, are people going to give Mashiri the credit for going against the fans? And Nate says, absolutely, Dan. It's an interesting point. It's certainly a point for another live stream, but it's a really interesting point. And I think fans do have to give him credit because Rafa Benitez, it's clear to see now, was the best man for the job. But let's hope it continues. As I said, this is titled The Season So Far. Still a long way to go. Still a lot of things to do. So let's hope it continues. Ollie says, love to see Rafa making them run insane and get them working. Yes. Nate says, never forget NSNO. It's tattooed in large font across my chest. Same here, my mate. Same here. Peter says, Everton Blues is 6'5". Colombian plays it up to Dominic. He flicks it on with his bun. One touch finish. Richarlison, ole, ole. Is that a song? There you go. Ewan says, who's the funniest in the squad? Well, Everton have uploaded the video with the players answering that question. So if you haven't watched it, go and check it out. Peter says, didn't want Benitez too defensive. But he's proved me wrong. Long may it continue. Me too, mate. Me too. Ewan says, sell Richarlison's being a right back, left back, 2 centre midfielders and centre back. Well, I don't want to sell Richarlison, but we'll wait and see what happens this summer. And Tom says, at school today, so many kids have been saying that they're Newcastle fans and always have been. Listen, let them. I don't think Newcastle will finish in the top 6 for at least the next 5 seasons, but some people seem to think they'll win the league next year. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Anyway, look, we're going to finish it up there. Then if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. It means a massive amount to me. If you're watching a YouTube video, then leave your comments down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. Massive thanks for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend. We will be back on Monday with another live stream, so don't forget to look out for that one. But until then, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy yourselves. Massive thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on The Mighty Blues.